Good afternoon, evening, everyone, and welcome to our very first conversation for our Trans Awareness Week. Um, we have so many amazing things going on this weekend at the Pride Center. This morning, afternoon, we started with our clothing swap that happened in our community space. It was amazing and beautiful. Folks came in, and we were able to just share space together, which was beautiful. Now we will be having a conversation around trans joy and what does that mean and look like for those of us in the community specifically, so you all can get to know and hear a bit more about those of us who work here at the Pride Center. Later on this afternoon, we will be having a conversation around trans policy with some of us who are on this current conversation, and our youth service director, Allah, will also be joining us. I'm excited to be having this conversation with you all and be in community. And I would like to first ground us in a quote that I hold dearly. And this quote is from one of the what I consider pioneers of the trans liberation movement, Miss Major Griffin Garcy. And she said, "We have to remain visible. They have to see us. They have to know that we're not going anywhere, that we've been here ever since God made man and women, and they have to get over it. We don't need their permission to exist. We exist in spite of them." With that, I would like to welcome my fellow colleagues to the screen.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, I'm excited. Not like I didn't see you all earlier today, but great to see you again. So this is not going to be a traditional panel. It's going to be more of an open conversation where we just flow off of each other. Um, we have a grounding question, and from there we will go and explore the many ways that this conversation could take us. The grounded question is, in a world full of harmful systems designed to harm us, what are some of the systems and or practices we create to experience and feel a sense of joy? And before any of you go, a quick introduction, who you are and your role here at the Pride Center.
Do you want me to go, Freddie?
Sure.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Erika. Again, my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am the Youth Services Coordinator at the Pride Center and the newest addition to the Youth Services Department.
I'm Freddie. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the manager of support services at the Pride Center. Johnny's, I really loved that quote that you shared. I've never heard it before. But
I'll make sure to text it to you.
yeah, please do, because I love the they have to get over it. For some reason, that really struck me today.
Absolutely. So yeah, who would like to go first on the question? And I can also repeat it.
I'll go if you want, Freddie. Yeah. Um, Loaded question. Yeah, I think as all of us kind of know, it's really complicated to experience what a sense of safety means like in underneath these conditions. Um, so just being mindful that like safety, full safety can look so different, and some of us don't actually even know what it means to access safety. But safety to me, sometimes when I envision what safety looks like, and in regards to the question, I like to close my eyes, and I have a bit of synesthesia. I see things in colors and patterns, and so sometimes things that make me feel warm, things that smell good. So I like to incorporate keeping things that are cozy to me around me that allow me to feel some sense of like security and safety, as well as like creating. So creating meaning writing a lot, singing a lot. I love to read. I'm a big bookworm, and so reading also for me is like a form of safety, especially in all of my intersecting identities as a Black, Indigenous, Boricua, as a woman of the trans experience. Um, escapism in writing sometimes is where I get to kind of just forget harmful things that are surrounding me all the time, but just like kind of fall on a soft palette in other stories that are written that are meant for you to get lost in. And then I also just try to do my best at facilitating and fostering connections that feel good and safe, that look like they align with my identity and they respect me, and respect meaning that they actually take action in keeping me safe. Um, and yeah, and also lots of personal space when the world is heavy allows me to kind of figure out what's next. So
Mhm.
That's beautifully said, Erica. I'm wondering, um, I think we've talked about this before, but for our audience, if you could go into a little bit more like what kind of forms of writing do you like to do? Like poetry? Is it prose? Is it going into just like a fictional landscape? Like what does your writing look like?
so I write lots of poetry, which for me is new. I don't not writing poetry, but sharing it.
Mm.
Um, and songwriting. I love music. Music is writing in general, and how that shows up is a big extension of who I am as a person, and just allows me to kind of create worlds that I want to step into, but it also allows me to make sense of the world around me. Um, and yeah, so it takes many different shapes and forms.
Yeah, and a huge
That's cool.
spoiler, I would tell all our viewers to keep their eyes out for a book that Erica might be releasing pretty soon. A beautiful poetry book. That's amazing and gonna be our number one top seller across the country and the globe. I think for me, when I think of like what are the spaces where I feel the most safe, um, I automatically think of my kitchen, right? To me, like my love language is like cooking for folks and like being in my kitchen with folks. So for folks who know me know that like baking has always been a passion of mine, and for a very short, very short time I was selling cakes. And it was really my thing. And when I was doing it, it was really like the one space where I was able to just unplug from everything in the world and just be in the moment and express creativity through baking and put this beautiful piece of art together because baking is art. By the way, just in case folks didn't know that. So I think that the kitchen for me has always been that place since I was a very little kid. I think I also think of like the community I've chosen to exist in, and the folks I choose to call members of said community. Like when I think of Erika, right, and being out with her, I know if anyone ever, ever tried to cause any harm towards my way, not only could I defend myself, but I have someone who's willing to also like have my back in that moment. I think of the folks at the center, right, and like the very tight relationships that we have with each other, and like how we all are ready to go to war for each other and defend each other till the end. So I think for me, I think of both like those very happy places, like my kitchen, and also the folks I share space with that allow me to feel safe and loved and protected.
Hey, what's your favorite thing to bake, Johnny's?
Oh, so I have
That's a hard question, I'm sure.
yeah, I have so many things, but I think like I can't give you one. I have a top three though.
Okay.
Um, Traditional tres leches will always be my favorite thing to make. I love me a good tres leche. Then last year, or not last year, how many? I forget how many years we've been in this pandemic, but the first year of the pandemic, I started to make this southern caramel cake, um, which like became my absolute favorite, especially when the caramel is homemade. I think buying caramel in the store is cheating. Um, And then lastly, there's a pastry in Puerto Rico called quesitos, which are also like my absolute favorite thing to make. I had to stop making them though because I would make a tray and it would disappear that same night. So I don't make them anymore.
Bring them to the center.
Maybe on Wednesday.
Yay, good.
And my birthday's the day after Christmas if you're feeling festive.
Oh, that's right, because we've talked about this, that you're a Capricorn Sagittarius
Mm.
cusp. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a lot of things. It's wild. Very chaotic. There was something you said, Janice, around like kind of folks ready to go to work for you, and that made me think a lot about like every day for me kind of feels like we're like stepping into a war zone.
Mm.
And so just like I don't know, just kind of curious to hear from the lenses of y'all, like with intersecting identities but still different humans experiencing things. Like, what does some of that war zone look like for us?
Jesus.
It's a really difficult question. I mean, it's a really good question.
Yeah, I think for me, every time I walk out my house, there's always that fear of violence that I could experience at the hands of men, particularly, is what I often think of, right? I think as trans women, many of us have had the experience of like just walking down the street and being catcalled, and like the fear that in that very moment, because you're being perceived as femme, if the news that you were a trans woman was exposed in that very moment, the very real violence that oftentimes we can experience. So I think for me, like automatically, that's the first thing that I'm like, okay, I have to get ready for this. Like, just in case, how am I gonna, evade this? But I think also, um, it's generally like the stress around just living within our experiences of for me being trans and Afro Boricua and like working class and all these other things, right? Where it goes beyond I was distracted by that too. It goes beyond just like our identity as trans folks, but also like our very other real lived experiences. Um, but yeah, I think ultimately it's always the fear of violence every time I come out the house, especially when we talk about the numbers and the rate in which Black trans women are being murdered across the country. Um, and Erica, you know this. I was texting you in Puerto Rico just recently, like, like my genuine fear is going somewhere on this island and no one ever knowing what happened to me and just disappearing, right? Um, and like that same night, I like cried because it's sad that this is often like the very first thing we think about, even on vacation where we're meant to be like enjoying our time. We're often thinking about our safety.
Thanks for sharing that. Mhm. And the intention was really like, I think, how we center joy, but also understanding, like for folks that are watching, the nuances of why joy sometimes feels hard to like access. And then like, we talked about a little bit of what things we like to create for joy and stuff, but also would love further on how we will continue to find joy, in different in nuanced ways.
Right. I think like often for me, what I've sort of got into in this place is like I can't let fear paralyze me, right? And I can't let fear stop me from accessing love and joy in life. So like yes, in the moment I'm scared, in the moment I'm sort of like, oh my God, is this really safe for me? Right. But I think because in my younger years, I really dealt with that a lot. Now that I'm a bit older, I'm just like, whatever, right? Like I'm going to live my life. I'm going to show up authentically as myself, and whoever accepts it. And if something happens, then I'll deal with it when it happens. But oftentimes, we really just rush to that place of being frightened and scared, and for me, I've had to do a lot of internal work to undo that, to just live in the moment and be happy and experience the joy of what it is to be a trans person, because it is a blessing to be a person of trans experience, to be non-binary, to be able to live ourselves. It's a blessing. My lovely Freddie, what are some things that bring you joy?
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, I there's so many things that are coming to mind. I actually I wasn't nervous about this panel. I was worried that I wouldn't have anything to say because a lot of like since coming out as non-binary, I it's been hard to find joy. It's like what Erica was saying, because fear is just it's just it's just all around us, especially right now. I feel like it's a very scary time to be a trans person, and I think specifically for what I hope to do in my life. I am what makes me feel most alive is theology. I grew up Catholic, which is like a whole other thing that we don't have to get into. But like I've found a lot of really life giving theologies in my, and that's something that has given me joy over the years. In that it's given me like a renewed relationship with God as a trans person. And then that fear comes in about where my future will lie and if I'll actually be respected where I am. Because I mean that's just I mean I think that's kind of what we all are worried about. You know, part of the reason why I wanted the job at the Pride Center was that I knew that I wouldn't get misgendered every day. You know, and it sucks that that's something that we have to think about, but it's just the case. And I think, you know, I hold a lot of privilege in the trans community as a white person, and as someone that looks, I don't know how people perceive me, but whatever. I guess I'm perceived as a white woman. I don't know. So I hold a lot of privilege in that way, and it's just like, yeah, there's so much. It's really hard to put it into words. How I wish that the joy and the fear didn't go so hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we connect around the religion piece, and
That'll be our next episode.
yeah. I look down at Erica because, you know, Erica knows I love to call myself a good Pentecostal woman, and you know, I do find joy within scripture. I do find joy within many preachings. I find joy within a lot of gospel music. I think I listen more to gospel music than secular music. I'm a good Pentecostal church girl, so I connect with you around the religion piece, because I think oftentimes folks think trans folks sort of lose that once we come into our identities, and it's no, it remains a core piece of who many of us are. And outside of just Christianity, many folks still identify as Muslim and Buddhist and so on and so forth, and connect with religion differently.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, like, I'm going to acknowledge everything, but I want to start with you, Freddie. I really appreciate you sharing that. One, because sometimes it is hard, right, again, to like just say all the things like, oh, how do I find joy? 'Cause it is, and I think what I deeply appreciate about your response is when we come into these containers to talk about joy, sometimes for me, how I've experienced other containers is like we want to minimize actually how sometimes we don't know how to get there. And we don't know what it is to like actually experience that. And so I think if we're actually gonna talk about joy as folks of a trans experience and whatever that looks like we actually have to make more space for like us that are right like acknowledging how an access to something or privilege, however you want to define it, will show up, but also acknowledging like the harm that will still surround us. And so yeah, I just like I think this is really humanizing what we mean by joy in a more clear way of like sometimes joy will look like this, but also we're still in a search of understanding what joy means to us in a political atmosphere that uses like trans women as political propaganda, right? That like uses our bodies as a political playground. It becomes hard to like decipher what is actually real and what is not. So I just wanted to say thank you for like sharing that. And the piece around religion, I think all of us can like relate in so many different ways. And how I identify is not important, but like I definitely have my own journey with my spirituality and tying back to like very indigenous practices and roots, because that to me feels like safety. And that to me is like a part of my journey of acknowledging the harmful institutional structures that I've ingested and have been forced into understanding, while also doing a deep like letting go and relearning around what were my people actually saying, right? And then defining that for myself and creating those new systems of prayer of whatever that means to whoever I choose to pray to. And for me, that's my community. I pray to my ancestors. I pray to the ones I have a direct connection with, blood or chosen. And that to me, right, like that is what surrounds me in my spiritual journey. And so I think there's also something really freeing about that in this conversation as well. I think for other folks to like be able to watch and self-identify with, and to also look at like all of our different trans experiences and be like, everyone is so different, but also so the same. And like, wow, I can be multifaceted and trans at the same time. Like, you know, I think that's really beautiful. So, and yes, Janice, you are a strong Pentecostal woman,
Yes, you
and
are.
I support you. And I love it because there is joy anytime we talk about it. I watch how you feel safe and you feel like connected, and that is a beautiful thing to watch, especially as another woman of the trans experience, to see other like trans folks feel like lifted and excited and safe and connected, because we gotta honor like the ones that we have lost and that were taken from us, right? And that is important and like that is integral to this conversation. And then we also have to honor the ones that are still alive and are being harmed by the same things that took away like our siblings and nibbling. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Erica, what's one of your poetry pieces that you feel like speak the most to your experience of joy or love?
Wow. That is
You should have known I was gonna come with this.
somewhere. Oh wait, no. You're okay. Well, it's actually right here. I lied. Thank you, sister. Well, sure. I will read a piece.
Yay.
For the audience who is watching, I have been probed to do this because there is a message to read a piece. So I just want to be very clear that I am not vague and I don't want to share this. So my book is called Loveland.
Mhm.
Woo woo woo. And it's a collection of pieces around like different experiences as a woman of the trans experience, but just as a woman, like experiencing love and different things. So there's a more of like a radical piece called Mother's Daughter that I really love. And I wrote this at the height of the pandemic after I came back from Puerto Rico. And that's a really important piece to me. So I'll share it. And it's not long. Let me see here. This is called Mother's Daughter again. My tears pour out onto the paper and leaks into the soil, seeping way down into the earth's epicenter. I am my mother's daughter. I hold life gently into my hand and cradle it until it can create life of its own. My mother is a descendant of warriors, of fishers, of healers, of inventors. You see, I was born with a fight within me, burning deeply. The flames whisper to me constantly that I am ready, ready to carry on what was left for me. Just like my mother, I am a warrior. Just like my mother, when I create, I heal, my people heal, the village rejoices. Just like my mother, I stand on the front lines of war for the liberation for our people. I stand. Just like my mother, with every breath I inhale and exhale, I invent. I am my mother's daughter. I am my grandmother's granddaughter. I am all the mothers before me and all the mothers after me, flowing like river leaf, following the call of healing, of transformation, of creation, of rest. Just like my mother and her mother, my body is the temple. My body is the map. My body is the key to hidden messages of freedom, buried deep underneath my skin, covered in scars, bruises, dirt, seeds, blood. I am my mother's daughter. Thank you.
Oh.
I was on mute, but I was almost out.
Yes, that is one of my favorite pieces in the book. I mean, I love the entire book, but that piece. No, I would love to hear from you, Erica, around, and we talk about this often, right? Of like who we choose to be in community with. And you are someone who has chosen to show up as a mother in many people's lives and in other young trans folks' lives. So could you talk a bit about sort of the joy of that, right? And there's lots of joy in it, and there's a lot of heartbreak and tough conversations. So I'd like to hear about the joy of showing up as a motherly figure and a new generation of trans young folks that are coming into this world.
Wow. Wow. Hmm. That's getting me emotional. Yes. So I want to say the first thing is like I don't like wake up in the morning and go, I want to do this, you know. And I think it is a gift if folks decide that I can be of something to them, you know. I think it has to be a decision and a choice. It's not up to me. And so what I will name is like it has been the greatest gift that folks can rely on me and seek something from me. Like that's not something I take lightly simply because like that requires me as still as someone as a young person, but phasing out, right? But regardless, as a human being, to um, identify the things that I hold that are harmful, right? Like I am the best parts of my parents and the worst parts of them, and in the most honest and like healing way, right? Like they carry like things that have prompted them to behave a certain way or to feel like they have to, right? And those behaviors and patterns, those are what I experienced. And so those are the first lessons around what it looks like to love people, to treat people. Um, so it's required me to really analyze how I show up. Um, and it's challenged me to say, am I willing enough and bold enough to ask questions, to question my own why, and to move in a way that is honest and like transformative. And so anytime someone is like, can you be house mother? Can you be this? Can you be this role? Like, it's something that I really take into deep consideration. And I don't just say yes for the sake of like, oh, I want to claim this, like it's something to put on a resume, but these are people's lives that feel impacted. And the idea of even saying that someone could feel impacted by you is a lot. But it's a reminder that nothing we do is singular. And so if there's something that I can offer, like I'm gonna take it really seriously. And so it means a lot to me. It brings me so much joy. to see little texts on my phone and like little things here, or like, to be able to show up in someone else's life um, in capacities where like most of us didn't get to experience, and even more when we're Black and brown. It just becomes deeper and like more complex, and so it just pushes me to move past my discomfort. And yeah, it's a really beautiful experience, and it's something that I'm really honored and grateful for. And yeah, I just work every day at trying to be a good person so I can be good to other people.
There is a question for Freddie. You talked about wanting to work at the NHPC because people there see and treat you as you are. Where else have you found that kind of space?
It's a really sweet question. Thank you, Cypress on YouTube. The first people that kind of come to mind are so I'm from Pittsburgh originally, and I have this group of friends. One of them's actually my cousin, but the rest of us are, friends from high school that have all kind of come out as queer, as trans, as non-binary over the years, and how I can just, completely be myself around them. Erica's poem, like even before Erica was sharing her poem, I was thinking about my grandpa a lot in this conversation. He was basically the embodiment of joy in my life. He was just like he was just like a what he used to call all of me and my siblings a big turkey, but he himself was the big turkey. It's like, I don't know. He was just a very happy guy, very just would joke with everyone, kind of would light up every space that he would go into. And he would just he was someone that would embarrass us all the time. We would beg him not to flirt with waitresses when we would go out to eat. And then we would sit down at the table and he'd be like, my grandkids told me not to flirt with you. And we'd be like, oh my God. So that's the kind of guy that he was. And there's just like a certain kind of humor that he had that kind of comes out when I'm with my friends in Pittsburgh. And I really feel like I don't know, like being non-binary also and trans like creates, there is humor that you can't access as a cis person. Sorry to the cis people that might be watching, but there really is like a humor that we have. And so I kind of get to tap into my grandpa ancestor energy when I'm with my friends from Pittsburgh. I call it grandpa mode whenever we're together. And I also I find a lot of comfort in not to like kind of go into what I think of the afterlife and things, but just, as I feel like my grandpa's energy lives on through me, I also just have this belief that when my grandparents, because my grandparents are all gone now, they did not know that I was not out as trans when I knew them. And I just like to think that when they passed away, they learned the truth of everything and are looking down on me with a lot of pride and a lot of joy in who I am. It's kind of the thing that kind of keeps me me grounded, is that kind of thought. So sorry, that was a very deep answer to that question, but I'm very blessed to have that community in Pittsburgh, and also one of saints that I feel like I'm kind of creating for myself.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, a very beautiful, joyous moment that some of us were able to witness and experience was your engagement, Freddie. Could you talk to us a bit about that, the joy that I'm sure that brought you? Because it was beautiful to watch.
Yes, Janice was at my engagement party. Erica, you weren't on staff yet, but if you were, you would have been there. Don't worry, baby. Um, I have been with my fiance Amy. We've been together for 6 years, and she's one of those people that she was the first person I ever came out to as trans, as non-binary, and she was supportive of me from day one. I've gone through different hairstyles. I've gone through different names. I went by another name completely before. I've changed my name twice at this point. The other name's kind of embarrassing, so I'm not going to share it. But I'll tell y'all offline. Anyways, so she's just my person. It's just really, I don't really know how else to describe her. She's just my person. She's the love of my life. I feel like I can, like when y'all were talking about how, like John, you were saying the kitchen is a really like centering place for you. I was thinking just that a centering place for me is like my apartment, where Amy and I kind of have our separate couches. We're close together, but we have like, she has the green couch, I have the blue couch, and we just kind of like sit together and watch TV. And how that's just kind of the space where I can just be myself, and I don't have to like say anything. I don't have to do anything. I can just kind of exist and just feel that joy and security. But anyways, it was my birthday. May 1st is my birthday. I'm a Taurus, for all you astrology heads out there. I was disguising it as a birthday party because my birthday fell on a Sunday this year, so it was the Saturday before. But it was actually a secret engagement party. I made 2 Facebook events for it and invited Amy to one and not the other. And we had it at Sleeping Giant in Hamden. I had everyone hide. I was kind of nervous because I wanted to like lie to her and be like, nobody's coming. But then she was like, I saw your sister coming up the hill, and I was like, oh no. So but I had prepared these cards of like that had calligraphy of them of different quotes from our relationship, and I had written in the cards, and so I gave them to her one by one, and then proposed, and she said no. I'm kidding. She she said yes, and then everyone kind of popped out from behind the pavilion. It was really fun. It was a good day.
Hmm.
It was a really good day.
Most
Yeah.
beautiful thing I've ever experienced and witnessed.
It was
There
a
were
lot. It was a
one
good day.
girl in you would have loved the moment. I think lastly for me, I think a moment that brings me joy once a week is when I have to take my hormones and like give myself the shot. It is the happiest time of the week. Though I will go into an emotional wreck for the rest of the week directly after, because hormone replacement therapy is wonderful and it just does that to you. But getting the actual shot, giving myself the actual shot, is probably like the most joyous time of the week for me. And though I often forget to do it, it is wonderful. It is wonderful. I'm sure we can all relate around that time of the week.
It's literally the best. I just started progesterone, so for the girls that know, no. But that was a big thing of joy for me this week. Starting that and like kind of being in a new chapter of like, different things that are gonna like just amplify me. But I'm super excited. And I love Mom Day.
Mm-hmm. Love my moments. Erica, could I share your TikTok about the progesterone?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Literally the cutest thing, y'all. Hold on.
Oh goodness. Feel free to follow me. I'm almost at 10,000 likes.
Do I check in? I need all the doors to check in right now. this fab black indigenous Boricua training just took her first pill of progesterone.
It's literally the cutest thing. I've been rewatching it consistently.
I'm obsessed with that. Oh my god.
It's me breaking down the back like, no, 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 no.
The joy in that video is everything, and I know it's something you've been looking forward to. So I was just like, yes, yes, my sister. Is there anything else you either of you would like to add before we close out this amazing conversation?
This is true, kind of like what I do around my tea shot. I was really afraid of needles before I started my shots, and what kind of made me feel more grounded in it was ritual. And for those who don't know, most of the people in the audience don't know this, but I named myself after two important figures in my life, which are Freddie Mercury and Fred Rogers, aka Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And so I realized that if I listen to a Queen song every time I do a tea shot, I feel more like empowered and confident in doing it. So that's for all you folks out there that might be afraid of needles. Just turn on a Queen song. Great.
I would say that like experiencing joy is not linear. It doesn't look one way or the other. So like if you don't feel it right now, like it's okay. And we're still all, as you all have heard, like we're still experiencing what it looks like for us to find a sense of joy. So just keep trying and give yourself space and rest when you need to rest, because the world will tell us otherwise. So don't feel afraid to pause, because I have been learning to pause a lot, and it messes with my Capricorn placements, and I'd be feeling so unrooted. But resting has absolutely saved my life, and resting is radical. So rest.
Absolutely. Lastly, for me, I would just encourage folks to go out and find community. There is folks who are willing and ready to take you in and love you and care for you. We at the New Haven Pride Center are definitely ready to build community and continue to build community with those who we share space with. Lastly, I would just like to tell folks to join us at 6:30 for our trans and non-binary inclusive policymaking conversation, which will be a really dope conversation, especially for those of us like myself who identify as policy junkies. And I would also encourage folks to join us in person tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the New Haven Pride Center for our T-Door visual and our altar building. Have a wonderful afternoon and see you in about an hour.